Sure.
All right, Evan, thank you so much for joining me on Culture Sway today. So you were just asking me a question there, which is quite interesting. So now that I just hit record, shoot again and let's get into the topic. It's very controversial, so I love it.
Yes. So how are you, Antonia? And I'm happy to be here and having this cross country conversation with another professional, another colleague. And I'm always curious how everyone's, business has changed. And I'm curious how your business has either adapted, changed, sustained any losses, any gains, anything that was kind of revolving around the climate of the COVID and how it's changed so much, not only in our, lives and health, but in business. So I'm just curious
Yeah,
what's going
sure.
on in your business life.
Of course, and then I'll ask the same question back to you. So I just only set up as a music business strategist last January 2020, and it was kind of kicking off well. Had a few clients in that, and then of course, naturally, when COVID hit and the whole venue situation had just come to an abrupt end, that sort of stopped the clientele sort of contacting me as frequently, but also as well, I think that like just with the lack of venues and the lack of gigs, and then therefore that kind of seemed to have an effect where the artists had a lack of money due to their main income being suspended. That kind of did sort of set me back a little bit with the business, I mean, as I had just started. But I mean, I was able to get funds from elsewhere, so that wasn't too bad. But what I decided to do then is I used the time to sort of build my visibility, my presence, and my brand online, which I think, has served me well and will continue to. Obviously, it's kind of like, a process, like when you're trying to build a business. And of course, when you're doing it online as a consultant or a coach, it does take a bit of time. So it is kind of slowly but surely getting there. But I mean, already we're in January and I've had, lots of clients or even potential clients like contacting me, looking to, get like either one-to-one coaching, or I've currently got I'm launching at the end of January a music business course, which is called Getting Started in the Music Industry, which kind of just tips off of like everything you kind of need to know, early days. So there's lots of kind of interest in that now. So, I mean, I think that the year that I took out to sort of build visibility and branding and put myself out there did sort of pay off, because now it kind of seems to be, I mean, it's only January, I don't want to speak too soon, but I mean, fingers crossed it will
Right.
continue. But yeah, there's people like, kind of getting in touch now via, lots of different platforms, via LinkedIn and Instagram and everything else. So, and I've signed a few clients already. So I'm quite happy with that. So, I mean, it did affect me, of course, at the beginning. But I mean, I kind of just sort of pivoted a little bit and worked through it, and it sort of paid off. So, same question
That's
back to
great.
you.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear, you were very proactive. You didn't just bunker down and let it affect you. You actually were very productive. While you did mention music, and a lot of musicians obviously have sustained economic loss because they can't do shows.
Mm.
I'm just curious, um, how are they, how are they pivoting to make income if they can't do shows?
Well, there is a lot of different ways that musicians can make money without having to actually do shows. And to be quite honest with you as well, like when I was first starting off the music business program back in January 2020, I was kind of like suggesting, musicians kind of move away from, doing online gigs and actually online, funnily enough, just because of the fact that like it's, yeah, you can spend your time and your money and all of that, like, going to gigs that you're not being paid for, and just because you might, get some exposure when you're not really going to get exposure. So it's kind of maybe just sort of filtering through what works for you and what doesn't, maybe building up your presence and your audience prior to actually starting to do gigs. Because I think it's obviously quite like, sort of an outdated way that musicians, like the only way that they can actually make money is by going to gigs and by going to gigs, like, but by performing in gigs. I mean, it's kind of same situation with the record industry. Like, I mean, independent artists can do much better for themselves rather than being signed. So yeah, so it's kind of initially trying to get them to move away from that. And the first few clients I had back in January 2020 was they were kind of not really, they were asking me, I was kind of trying to coach them to set up a business as a musician, but what they were kind of like hiring me for really was to kind of do a PR launch or campaign. And I was kind of like going, that's not really what I want to do. I mean, I can show you how to do that. And if that's what you want to focus on, then fine. But what I really want to focus on is kind of having like a fully rounded, sort of 360 situation where musicians kind of know where they're at, what they're doing, what their points are for income, what their points are for visibility, building an audience, and just kind of really showing them exactly, the basics of the music industry. So then therefore they, come across polished and professional as well. And that when they're reaching out to people on a professional level, that they come across as someone to be reckoned with rather than just another musician that's got a few things on Spotify, tracks on Spotify, and maybe has like a dodgy looking website or doesn't even have a website, because obviously, like, I mean, it really is about the numbers, because at the end of the day, some musicians kind of fail to see that the fact of the matter is it's actually a business, not just an outlet for creativity. Because if that's what you want to look for as an outlet for creativity, then you're pretty much, looking at a hobby. But if you're looking to make money and, build up your presence, then you've got to look at it as a business. So like there are ways and means of making money, but I mean, like that is also the part and parcel of the program that I offer. So like, I'm not kind of like going to dive into, all the different ways and means right now, because otherwise I kind of like, give it away, where it's not just a case of saying A, B, and D. It's a case of like saying, I was going to say B and Z, and then I said D. But anyway,
Right.
it's a case.
Right. That's great,
of,
though. I
yeah,
get it. That's great
yeah.
that you're really trying to educate, not just trying to sell, Instagram marketing or a very hyper focused product. You're really trying to educate, like you said, 360 degrees, and I think that's what a lot of musicians and a lot of people that are going into business need, is that education. So I think that's great.
That's it. That's exactly it. Like, it's just like educating them, to like, how to look at it as a business. Yeah, pretty much.
That's great. How is Ireland, as far as, every country's treating this COVID differently? Have they shut down all of their music venues? Have they shut down bars and
Yeah,
cafes? And
we're on lockdown again. Would you believe? Like they kind of like they went into like level 5 lockdown pre-Christmas, just to kind of like say that like they'll allow us to kind of have a Christmas in a sense, and then everything opened up at Christmas. And then they shut everything down again, right? Like just literally after Christmas, before New Year's Eve. So we're on lockdown again. I mean, like for me personally, it doesn't really kind of bother me, because I mean, I'm kind of working from home anyway, and I'm quite chill. And to be quite honest, like, I mean, I'm a very confident person. I have no problem talking to anybody and everybody, but at the same time too, I'm a little bit I like to kind of like chill myself, like a bit of like introspectively, like just I mean, I'm kind of glad that I don't feel like the obligation to kind of go out and whatever. And it's kind of nice just to kind of be able to focus on my projects and everything else, because I kind of always do feel that bit of FOMO whenever there's something happening. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go. And then it's like, oh no. So, but that's just me personally. There is obviously many people like that have other situations where they were working a 9-to-5 job, going into offices and things like that. Maybe they can't necessarily work from home because maybe they were in hospitality or whatnot. The government is offering like, good subsidy. So that's not, I suppose too bad, but obviously, it's not going to be enough for everybody. But yeah.
Now that you mentioned that, I'm curious. It doesn't have to be personal to you, but it could be generally speaking. What kind of subsidies is Ireland offering their people? Like, for instance, out here, they give unemployment, which is essentially a percentage of your full pay. And they also give a subsidy, which we call the stimulus, which originally they gave most, most Americans, I don't know, a few $1,000s in subsidies, and now I think they just gave another 1,200. So what are they doing out there on a general level? What are they giving to the people?
Depending on what your income was prior to COVID, to people like that are employed or were previously employed, that were maybe say on a relatively high income, not necessarily a huge income, but maybe say, I don't know, over like 30K or something, you get like 300, they're giving you 350 per week. That is taxable though. And there's a lot of other things as well, like, for companies, like they're kind of offering for larger companies, sort of wage subsidies and things like that too. They were kind of more for sort of corporate companies that I'm not really too up to date with at the moment, because I haven't really kind of looked into them. But for, the average person, like that's either like self-employed or just, as an employee, it's up to 350 euros per week since the end of April. And it's continuing until April for now. I mean, it could be extended again. I don't know. So that's what like people are kind of getting right now at the minute.
Wow. And now if you were not employed before COVID, did they still offer some kind of a subsidy, or if you didn't have a job, you're not offered anything?
I mean, if you weren't employed beforehand, I mean, people would be on, what they call like job seekers allowance, which is about 200 euros a week. So I think that, if you were on job seekers, you might kind of get a little bit extra, or else you might just remain on that. I mean, if you're an individual, I mean, it's completely manageable to live on 350 a week. But if you were a family, I suppose it would be, quite tough. So, I mean, as good as it sounds to one person, it doesn't sound so great to the next, unless like maybe one person is working in a family unit. I don't know. But yeah, so what was it? Oh yeah, for job seekers, I don't really know. I think that like, yeah, so job seekers get like 200 euros a week. And they probably do get like a bit extra as well, like, with that, but I don't know what it is, to be honest.
And they shut down restaurants, dining in service completely, and
everything is shut down again, like, since just before New Year's Eve. So it's like level 5 technically, or 4 or 5 or whatever, like, which just kind of means like that, yeah, everything is like shut up shop, and yeah, nothing is open, like, I mean, bar necessary businesses, which are.
What about takeout? Are they
Well, I mean, you can get
takeout
for sure. You can get like, deliveries like from Deliveroo or Just Eat as per usual, or directly from the restaurants and stuff themselves. But you can't dine in a restaurant. You can just get like takeout. So they've like takeout coffee, takeout food. And before, in the last lockdown, there was like, takeout beer, where like, bars, you couldn't go in and sit down, but you could like, get a takeaway beer. I'm not sure if that is the case at the moment. I think they were kind of cracking down on that a little bit, because people were just all over the streets and they were drinking, and creating parties, and obviously like, mass gatherings in the cities and stuff like that. Like, even though there weren't any venues or anything open, they were just getting the takeaway drinks. But yeah, like that's literally about it. Like there is like, you have like large pharmacies like Boots and that like open, and the takeaway restaurants and like supermarkets and stuff are open as well. But yeah, that's kind of pretty much it. Like, and a few other necessary businesses, which would be sort of like building supply stores and stuff. But yeah.
Wow. So what are people, are they rebelling this shutdown? Are they embracing it and understanding to it?
No, like, I mean, there were a few months ago, like, people that weren't, sort of necessarily educated, like, kind of rebelling a little bit, going like, we want the right to be able to go and drink a beer kind of thing, and it was like just absolutely pathetic. But like, what the thing about it is that like people do need to be educated, but everyone is sort of like, fairly, I mean, I don't know personally anybody that's sort of, too upset about it or complaining about it. Well, I mean, obviously everyone kind of saying like it sucks and it's a shit situation, like, but no one that I'm aware of, like that I know personally, is kind of, I mean, the whole travel thing is really sort of the kicker, I think, mostly, like, and I mean, a couple of other people as well, like that would be working, hands-on with people, like being like, in the beauty industry or hairdressers or whatever, obviously are at a loss for sure for money and for wages. I assume probably they might be getting something like the PUP, which is the pandemic unemployment payment, the 350 that I was talking about. Don't know if that, like, is kind of sort of sufficient enough for them. But what was the question again?
No, I was just curious, just generally, and you kind of explained that everyone gets some kind of a subsidy. The restaurants, you said, are generally shut down. for
So yeah,
dining
you were
in
saying about rebelling. The thing about it
and
is, I think
rebelling.
like if people are actually more educated, like and they knew about like Agenda 21 and the Great Reset, that like they may kind of sort of have a better understanding and therefore might actually rebel. But I think that like the longer this is going on, like the less and if people are not rebelling, then it's just going to be inevitable like that. Things are going to change,
Mm.
regardless of our fucking rights, really, I suppose.
So tell me something, because out here,
Where in the States are you?
they are. Excuse me.
Where in the States are you? What
Oh,
state?
I'm in New York.
Ah, amazing. Love it.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in New York?
So we're not far from New York City.
Okay.
So yeah, we're near the epicenter, and obviously there is a lot of rebellion out here. People don't want to shut down.
Yeah.
Um, they're trying to figure out ways to make money. In fact, there is some black market businesses, such as
Mm,
they're doing these pop-up venues in clubs and these underground
love it.
promotions, and people are getting fined, a lot of money when they
Mm.
get busted. So that's going on out here,
So everything is
and
shut
just
down out there as well. Like, I mean, clubs, bars, all that kind of thing, that they're all pretty much, it's kind of similar to here right now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Because I thought that it was a little bit, because I thought like obviously we are, on lockdown again, as of after Christmas. But I thought like some places now since the last time, like in the States had kind of, they're a bit more lenient, or they're not lenient, but like they've relented in the sense like that, they've kind of started to open back up again a little bit. Um, I suppose some states are different. I mean, obviously, like on things like social media or whatever, like I'm seeing things and kind of going, oh, it's still open over there. I think there was something like on Instagram, like someone was talking about going to a restaurant in LA, and I was like, oh, right there. So the restaurant's open there, okay, but New York, they're not.
Well, New York, it's kind of touchy. So some places, depending on the size of the restaurant, they are allowing dine-in service, but I think it's at, don't quote me, but I think it's like 25% capacity. So
Yeah,
they're letting in 25% of what they're normally legally allowed to. So you can dine in. Obviously, it's cold out here, and they do offer some, outdoor dining. You can absolutely, uh, dine outside, which is not the best right now for, it's 40 degrees.
that's what we had
Um,
before Christmas, or yeah, just before like there was a total lockdown at Christmas, but just before Christmas rather. But right before that, I think like November, October, November, we had the same situation, but now it's nothing. Yeah.
mm. What's the business climate out there? As far as I know, everyone's kind of on lockdown. Most people are pretty much out of work or working remotely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, have you noticed any new businesses kind of stir up, being that, people are trying to figure out a way to
Yeah,
survive?
there are a lot of businesses for sure. Like a lot of people are kind of, turning to sort of like arts and crafts and like selling that online, or they're turning their retail, yeah, their brick and mortar retail store into like an online business, or they're having it like, both. And yeah, people are kind of turning to mainly a lot of creative hobbies. I was going to say endeavors, but like that's the wrong word. Like they're more creative hobbies, and using that then like to sell online or whatever. What else?
Right.
Maybe I've just seen like stores turn to online, and yeah, people selling their own creations online as well. And I think there's a few other things too. Yeah, people are kind of like creating apps, and I think there's a lot of authors writing books, all that kind of stuff. So there is kind of things happening, all right, like yeah.
Right. No, I mean, in some ways, obviously, that's the positive. The silver lining is people are going to be very introspective and try to dig into their inner talents, and really try to make a revenue stream from it. Like you said, they're putting their creations together, trying to sell them online, and I think that's being proactive. And who knows, there might be some great success stories, which we are already are seeing out here, from people, turning to their talents and really trying to make a living and start businesses, with their what normally are their hobbies. So
Mm.
I think that's a good way to channel, this kind of economic defeat. into something productive,
Yeah. And how about yourself? Like, I mean, tell us about your business and, how it's sort of either you pivoted or it's changed or affected.
Yeah. So I've been a serial entrepreneur pretty much my whole life. So obviously I have, you know, there's businesses I have that have a regular revenue kind of uh, income all the time. And then I have other businesses that I start up. Um, as my contracting businesses were obviously shut down quite a bit, where they weren't allowing to build in New York because obviously they were concerned for the safety of the workers. So a lot of those projects got shut down. Um, so I have a media business. It's called Viable Media. Um, just for the simple fact that a lot of businesses are shut down or slowed down, they are not reaching out as much for advertising, especially a business that's shut down or somehow has been altered. They're not going to put money into advertising if they can't accommodate their customers. So we're not getting the commercials to do commercials for people and do um, a lot of things in the media end. But there are, like you said, a lot of brick and mortars are now turning to online. So they still need a lot of video assets. So in that respect, that work is going to be picking up. And digital marketing, we have our own digital marketing company, um, which is that's picking up because it seems everyone is converting to online, and everyone needs help. The unfortunate part is not everyone has a budget for that because of this economic, climate. People don't have the money like they had before, so everyone's just trying to be creative in how to make money, but with very little money, it's really tough. So the media company, we've kind of picked up on a lot of the projects, the in-house projects, which one of them is Mind Your Biz. Now that's a vodcast and a podcast. It's also a TV show that we are piloting, and we're hoping to get that one to a major network. We're going to be interviewing some great A-list people in the business, as well as just really successful CEOs of some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies. So we've already done some great interviews, and we have a lineup of really great interviews with people that just are just real big in our world and pioneers. So we're looking forward to that. And because of COVID, some of the silver lining is, some of these prominent people in society are more accessible because they're not as busy, and they're giving us time to talk and chat. And I think they also want to help. They want to give some words of wisdom and inspiration, and that's what I'm trying to expose on our platform, Mind Your Biz, is really just expose business techniques, inspiration, just give people hope that we could try to do something and be proactive and try to create businesses in ourselves, even if it's crocheting a blanket or if it's making a custom design on sneakers and selling it online. So we're really trying just to promote hope and people to try to sustain themselves economically and not depend on their 9 to 5 or their big company. Or we want people to really just we want to bring the entrepreneur out of everybody, and that's our goal for our platform, is just to connect with people, help them connect with other people around the world that might have a synergy. And yeah, and we've been lucky enough to really get some great um, interviews lined up, and we're just making really great progress reaching out to people. So that's what we've been focusing on.
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds amazing because I mean that's kind of similar to what I'm sort of doing as well. Like I mean, I specialize in the music business aspect, but I would really like to kind of bring, as you said, like the entrepreneur out and everybody, you know, and try and reach out to just people like that, you know, as you're doing yourself, have lost their jobs or whatnot, but have maybe some sort of skill or even talent or some sort of thing that they can create that they can maybe turn into a business. Because yeah, I think that like I mean everybody has some sort of potential, and it's just kind of maybe creating what that is or knowing what that is or pulling it out of them from what that is, where they haven't had the opportunity prior because they were just too consumed with work and, you know, maintaining a life or lifestyle, maybe family, friends, socializing, whatever that is, you know. So now that they have the opportunity and the time, I think it's really important to kind of hone in on who they are as people and what they're capable of. So yeah, fulfilling their potential. I think that's great.
Yeah, and
Have you
that's great.
seen?
We need more of this kind of talk.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say, have you seen the recent movie Soul?
Soul. How do you
It's
spell
on.
that?
It was released there at Christmas. It's actually on Disney Plus. It's
Oh, Disney. No, I haven't personally seen it, but I'm looking forward to it. It seems really,
yeah.
musical and fun. Yeah.
Loved it, yeah, because
So
like I mean, I haven't really watched animations in such a long time, like you know, but I heard a review of this on the radio when I was driving one day, and I was like, that sounds really good. I have to check it out. So I actually got Disney Plus and I watched it, and it was so good. But it just kind of reminded me as well because like there's scenes in it like where the main guy, is actually sort of a piano player, like a jazz pianist, and
yeah.
just like you know some of the music and like kind of you know there's like just a few snippets of it like that shows sort of like a typical jazz club in New York, and it's like oh my god, like I'd love to go back to New York and go check out some like really good jazz, but who knows when that's going to be at this stage, you know.
Oof. Yeah, it's scary.
It
But
is.
no, that's great. I heard about Soul, and it's good they're still making some, great film and animations, because that's what we've all been kind of leaning on to get us through the time, like
Yeah,
to
it's so
spend
good.
time watching,
Definitely check it out, it's really good.
what are you guys watching out there as far as your platforms? Are you guys big on Netflix and Amazon and Hulu?
Yeah, pretty much that's it. Like Prime, Amazon, Disney, whatever else is there. Like, I mean, obviously, then you have like you know Sky and Virgin and stuff like that. But yeah, I just kind of predominantly watch Prime and Netflix myself. Yeah, and then of course stream some stuff online from time to time, and that like in YouTube as well. Like lots of videos on YouTube
So I'm
regarding
curious. I'm
series.
not gonna ask for your secret sauce of music marketing, because number one is there's never one answer. There's a whole lot of things to really become successful in music. But we did talk quickly about, obviously we can't do, musicians can't gig out at the bars and clubs, and online gigs aren't really, you're not making much money unless you're already an A-lister,
Mhm.
you know, with a big following.
Yeah.
So what are, and I saw a really great show the other day. It's called The Prophet with Marcus Lemonis.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've seen it, but
No,
he
I'll
did a
check it out.
show on Nashville, Tennessee, which is, it's one of the capitals of country music, I would say.
Yeah.
And it was really, interesting how he met, he was at this local, a renowned place where all the biggest musicians visit, and they go to this bar.
Mhm.
And he stumbled on some writers, and some hit writers. They've had, Billboard hits. And he was saying he stumbled on one artist that literally got 300 million views on YouTube.
Mhm.
And from those 300 million views, that artist was paid $1,800.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I
Well,
find that insane.
well, I mean, I'm sure. Well, to be honest with you, I think that like if he was getting 300 million views in one video on YouTube, like that, there definitely would have been a bit of a bigger payout, unless if he went through somebody else, they took some of the money. But I think that if he got 300 million views, he would have had, if he had had a direct payout from YouTube, it would have been more, because there's a lot of YouTube, quote unquote, like influencers and whatnot, and like they get a lot. more money. But I mean, it's all about really sort of like consistency and sort of building, you know, building that profile and building yourself up, because sometimes as well, even if you do have a few videos on YouTube, you haven't really kind of taken off yet, then you have one video that takes off, it still takes a while for sort of YouTube to kind of like have to have the algorithm sort of calibrate to kind of see whether or not like this is just a one-off, or if it's going to be more consistent. Are you growing an audience? Are you going to have more people staying on YouTube because of you? So if it was a case of like you have like a lot of different videos on your platform that kind of are creating sort of consistent views of a few thousand, few 100,000, million, few million, then you're going to get a bigger payout from YouTube. Now, if he was going through somebody else, like if he was signed or whatever, if he had an agent and the agent was giving the money, guarantee that they would have taken like a chip of that money as well. So if all he got was $800, or sorry, well, what is it,
1,800 out of 300 million views.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just, I mean, it just takes a while. I mean, like, it's just, you know, you're not going to get like, you know, sort of paid overnight. It's going to take, you know, a little bit of time. But yeah, I mean, I would say that like whoever was part of his team and handed him the money might have possibly, you know, taken from it. But also that like, you know, if that was just himself and he monetized YouTube himself personally, then it's just because like, you know, the algorithm, like, you know, just obviously hasn't kind of like, as I said, like calibrated to see consistency on the videos. Was if you have like videos with like 12 views and then one with 300 million, it's like, okay, well, yeah, you might get like a little lump sum such as that. But I mean, it's not really about YouTube and, you know, all these other sort of platforms, like online platforms, like, you know, for making money. And I mean, that's just kind of a one-off. I haven't really heard that before, because as I say, like there's so many influencers on YouTube, like talking about absolute crap, that are getting paid like 10 grand a month. You know, and this guy could probably very easily, like, you know, get paid 10 grand a month if he had consistent, like, you know, 100,000 plus, not subscribers, but views on each video. But it does take years to build that up. And that's why the two key points of not just, you know, sort of the music industry, but, you know, any industry, sorry, not actually any industry, well, any industry in the online aspect, it just takes perseverance and consistency. And they're the bottom two things. Because I mean, if you're going to try and like, if you're just starting out in the music business or in any online business and you're posting things and not getting any traction, and you're kind of like, you know, getting deterred because like you're not getting anybody DMing you or following you or people interested in you, and then you kind of like peter off, then, you know, when you do another post or whatever, like, you know, it's not going to be seen by anybody because there isn't, you know, you have to kind of, you know, be aware as well of like the algorithms in certain platforms like Instagram, YouTube, etc., and Facebook, because, you know, if you post today and then don't post for a few weeks, it's just going to go, you know, where. It's just like, you know, you have to keep that consistency there to kind of keep it relevant, and it's like build it up. And then when like and engagement as well as a third thing, perseverance, consistency, and engagement. Because if you're not engaging, then, you know, you're not keeping people on the whatever platform it is. And if you're not keeping people on the platform, then the algorithm's going to like just, you know, not pay attention to you. So because obviously like it's the end goal, or the end game rather, for any business is revenue. And, you know, platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube make their revenue by keeping people on the site. And if you're putting up videos and people are not staying on the site, they're bouncing from your videos onto somebody else, then they're going to give that other person, you know, more of a boost. They're going to give that person more visibility. And I mean, the only way to kind of really, I mean, whatever genre, niche, or whatever that you're doing in business or in music, you know, you just have to keep it consistent. I mean, even the Beast, who's got like something like 50,000 or 50 million rather subscribers on his platform, took him like 5 years to have a video take off, and suddenly now he's got 50 million subscribers. But it's because he was clever about it as well. He actually checked out his data on YouTube and read what his data told him, and he worked around that data. And also he kind of studied things like, you know, the correct thumbnails and the correct captions and the correct title to put on the videos that are, one, going to, you know, I suppose, for the algorithm to work, things like that are trending, things that people are actually clicking on using like the correct keywords and metadata and all things like that. That is how you use those platforms, not by, I mean, if you have like one video that takes off to have 300 million views, I mean, it's just going to go, okay, what's next? And if you can keep that up, then you'll start to get like, you know, a good bit of return on investment, or even revenue rather. But like, if you don't keep it up, then it's just going to go, that was just a one shot. You know, you're not really doing anything for us here. You got one video that's had lots of views. Great. What's up? What's next? You know, you have to keep it consistent, you know, because otherwise, you know, people just, you just lose interest. You have to stay relevant. Like, you just have to be consistent. That's the bottom line, I guess,
Right.
really. So that's sort of like what I would say about that.
And I mean, because of the fact that it is harder for musicians to make money, do you think we're going to lose music artists, not just musicians, it's any kind of artist really? Do you think we're going to lose a lot of talent because they're not able to, you know, make money from their art? Do you think we're
There's
going to have a dismal decade of less artwork, less talent, less
No, I
music?
don't think so at all. I think that like life itself, like there's an ebb and a flow, and I think that like you might lose some musicians because they don't have the perseverance, the consistency, and the, you know, the education to know what they're doing, or to stay, you know, consistent. Because at the end of the day, they're just going to be deterred because, like I said earlier, because they didn't get like, you know, so many streams on their track, or they didn't, you know, get so many hits on YouTube, or they didn't get this, that, or the other. There's going to be like, no, right, no one cares. Like, you know, maybe it's just my music. I'm going to try something else. That's their problem. But there's plenty of other musicians who have the determination and the ambition, and that have the talent, and that are going to be coming out of the woodwork because they're getting older. You know, there's like teenagers that are turning, you know, people turning 16, 17, 18 that are going to start like, you know, producing music because they're at home, they're not in school. There's, you know, plenty of other people that like, you know, have a bit of talent that are off work as well. And they're going to like, you know, put that online and use that. You know, so I mean, it's just
What do
like,
you think's going to come out of, what do you think's going to come after this COVID, once COVID loosens up and we have vaccines and people
ugh,
are getting healthy? Well, how do you think the music industry might change? Because I don't think it's just going to pick up where it was
you know,
before. I think
it,
there's going to be some changes.
there will 100% be changes. I don't really know what those changes would be. I kind of had a sort of an idea before, but like now, because I don't know, I've kind of sort of stopped paying attention because I think the whole thing is bullshit anyway. So I've kind of stopped
Mm.
paying attention to like, you know, what the future plans technically are, like, you know, governmental plans. You know, we're just in lockdown again. That's what I know right now. And it's like, you know, fuck's sake, like we're going to get out of this anytime soon, or what's the plan? They're going to roll out the vaccine. But like my concern really is like, you know, what is the situation if you decide you do not want to take the vaccine? You know, are you just going to be segregated and you can't travel, you can't go to gigs, you can't do stuff like that? The festival scene, like people had like festivals that were postponed last year, have like, you know, cited like that they're going to be going ahead next year. But I think that was kind of maybe a bit, you know, jumping the gun a little bit. How festivals are going to go forward, I'm unsure. I suppose gigs and things like that, like, I mean, probably will never be the same again, because obviously you're going to have to keep this like social distancing thing, like, you know, at the forefront of your mind, to be conscious of other people and all that, regardless of having the vaccine, or even if you do have the vaccine, there's still, I think, masks are going to have to be just, you know, mandatory at all times. But I think that like if this vaccine is going to be rolled out and people are going to take it, the majority, then I think that like things will kind of turn back to semi-normality, that there will be live gigs and things like that, but probably not as many, or there will be, you know, as there were, or are, was, well, yeah, were with the restaurants, a capacity of like, you know, 25%. So I think there'll be kind of something like that. Like, you know, there'll be just, you know, very little, you know, there won't be any fucking mosh pits anyway, for sure. But you'll have
Wow.
people that will be kind of going to gigs like that. Yeah, there'll be like maybe 25% capacity in venues and stuff. I mean, there's been a few bars that have like, you know, closed down, unfortunately, and things like that. But I think the majority of them have kind of remained, you know, that they will open again. So I think that it will probably just be at a lesser capacity, and with like stuff like mandatory masks and, you know, fucking proof that you took the vaccine or whatever. I mean, I'm just kind of curious to kind of see like how mandatory this vaccine is going to be, because I don't know, I have no interest in taking that fucking vaccine whatsoever. I mean, I just think that like, you know, it's another kind of I don't know, I'm kind of more on the conspiracy side of it a little bit. I just don't really want to be putting like foreign bodies into my body that I have no idea what they are. I mean, even the flu
Right.
vaccine I took once and I regretted it. But it was just like, I mean, what the hell is in the vaccine? We don't even know what's in the vaccine. And it's really bizarre as well that it was just rolled out like, you know, in a couple of months. I mean, that's impossible. It's actually
Mm.
scientifically impossible to have
Where are you
that
guys getting
big.
your vaccine from?
Pfizer, there's like a company in Ireland called Pfizer. Well, they're not necessarily an
Okay.
Irish company, but there's a huge, they're in Ireland. So it'd be there, I'm assuming, but like, I don't know. Is that what you meant? Is where we're getting it? Like what company?
Yeah, yeah. We get it from a few different places. One is Pfizer,
Hmm.
one is Moderna. I think there's another one from, I don't know, Johnson and Johnson.
Ugh.
So there's a few different companies producing
Like,
the
and
vaccine
none of
here.
those people have actually good reputations, particularly Johnson and Johnson. And their reputation is fucking horrendous. Do you know when it comes to things?
Well,
But you know the funny thing
oh
is
yeah.
a tweet there was like, you know, politician over in Britain, like who was a doctor and turned into politics or turned to politics and then decided he would keep, you know, kind of, you know, working as a doctor for now. He said that like he was giving someone like the vaccine in the UK, in England, and someone was like, they were like, no, do you know what? I'm going to wait for the English one because it was a Pfizer, because it was made from Pfizer or whatever, like in Ireland. And they were like, no, we're going to wait for the English one because there's another company in England that are doing it. And it's like, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, I mean, kind of really sort of defeats the entire purpose of it. It's kind of ironic, but it's like,
Right.
what's the difference between an Irish one and an English one? There's no fucking difference. Like, there's still like, you know, companies that are like, you know, putting it out.
The accent's a little different on the vaccine.
Yeah, that's
Just
it,
kidding.
right? You know, fucking hell, like the blood type is different. But
That's right.
But yeah, so like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it remains to be seen. I mean, there's not very much at all that I've seen online regards the vaccine. Like, you know, it's not saying what's in it. It's not saying anything about it, how they, you know, how they actually constructed it and created it. I don't know anything about it. So, I mean, I'm not going to like take something like that, like, you know, that I have no idea what's in it because, you know, like with the flu vaccine, like the amount of crap and gunk they have in that, you know, it's like, I don't know, I'd rather not do it, just even out of principle, because like they've kind of controlled us for an entire year
Right.
so far. And it's like, you know, well, I mean, we're already kind of like being controlled with like cashless and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. So it's just like, you know, a further
Now
method.
shifting back to music, you know
Hmm.
what I'm a little concerned about, and you can tell me your opinion is I'm worried that the next great artist, the next great band is going to feel like they need to get a job for, you know, a big company to feel secure. And we're going to lose that next big artist to
No,
working at like a Target or Amazon, or you're not worried about that?
I don't think that at all. I've heard that before
Mm.
because I mean, like big companies, like I mean, sure, but you're like, I mean, there's more money now than there was even like pre-COVID because everyone's saving their money because they don't have to commute. They're, you know, not spending money on like going out shopping, or they're not spending money on restaurants or bars, venues, gigs, travel. There's more money now than there was before COVID. So the thing about it
Mm.
is that like if people are kind of working the right way, I think most musicians, like they're going to be like young, as in like, you know, maybe late teens, early 20s. They're the savvy ones like that are going to be able to just like, you know, create their own little businesses online, which is kind of like one thing that I'm
Yeah.
helping them to try and teach them to do. I really don't see like the youth of today wanting to kind of like have that like quote unquote security to get a job in corporate world,
No,
because
I agree.
everybody is
I
going
agree with
into
you
that
said.
now. Mm.
I think the youth are going to go stronger
Hmm.
as being artists, but I think we're going to lose, you know, the mid 20s, late 20s, you know, early 30s. You know, some artists, most artists, you know, they say it takes 10 years to really to become
If they're
a
any good,
successful
they'll
artist.
already have like a bit of a team around them, even if they're just kind of like, you know, middle way. Because if they're really that good, you know, if you're talking like someone like, okay, you know, that's going to be big, such as like, say, Will I Am or any of these kind of people, then, you know, if they were that good, then they're going to be that ambitious, because all of these people that made it to the top didn't make it by luck or talent. They made it because they had some fucking serious business savvy and they were hustling their way there. And I think that if there's going to be the next big thing, be it Drake or whoever, they're going to be the exact same as that, and they're going to do exactly what everyone before them did, and they're going to stick it out, persevere, be consistent, and hustle. You know, and I think that like if they're already there or halfway there before COVID, then I think what's going to happen is like that they've probably already got like some bit of a team, and they're just going to pivot. You know, I mean, like even say Dua Lipa, she was about to do her big world tour, like her big sort of the biggest thing she's done so far. And that was obviously completely cancelled. But what she did is because like she already was, you know, sort of famous and had like a bit of a following, you know, went online and did her online concert. And it was like the biggest grossing online concert obviously ever. So I think things are going to be starting off like that a little bit. Yes, she already had a following, and yes, she was already, you know, in the industry where she had, you know, a big label and stuff behind her. But if there's any artist that is worth their weight in salt and that is actually genuinely talented and good, then, you know, they'll already have had, if they're in their mid-20s or their late 30s, they'll already have, you know, someone behind them kind of pushing them, or they're already going to have people, you know, interested in them and probably, you know, contacting them to work with, be it like record labels. Because the thing is as well, I think that musicians were getting very deterred from record labels. They were kind of going like independent, you know, is better, because it's been proven like, you know, that one artist, you know, particular, they were doing really, really, really well. Then they got signed, and then like, you know, they went down, and then like the next thing they got out of their contract and became independent again, and then just took off. Because like what she was doing was a bit more clever than the PR campaigns and stunts and stuff that the record label was coming up with. But I think that maybe artists might now start looking back to record labels just for the finances and just for the, you know, for the advance they would get, like, you know, to record and things like that. So I think that like they were not looking to get signed before. I think they might kind of go back to looking to get signed. But I don't think they're going to lose out like anyone. I think if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Like, you know, I don't think that the world is going to be short another Michael Jackson or something. But I mean, those people are like just one of a kind. I mean, Madonna, like I was only thinking earlier on today, like, you know, she was huge and people were dressing like her, copying her. You're not going to get that again. Even when Britney Spears was big, there was no one like dressing like her per se, you know, because she didn't really have anything particularly unique. She's just like on trend. Like Ariana Grande that's out now, you don't have people like, you know, following her in the sense that they're looking like her and dressing like her, like back in the days of Madonna. Everybody, every artist, I mean, there's no Madonna right now. There's not been another Madonna for the past like fucking 40 years. You know, you think there would be, but obviously not. So if I think there's anyone, you know, going to come out, they'll just come out regardless. But I think that every artist that hits it big is unique, and they're unique to the time. So I think that
So you mentioned something really important. Dua Lipa had a successful online concert. Now, if you really think this out, you know, think this over, if an artist can be successful through an online concert and make money, they can trim a lot of the fat. If you think about it, they don't need the transportation costs. They don't need dancers. They don't need to rent the venue that gets probably 75% of each ticket.
Yeah.
So don't you think there's going to be less live concerts, less stadium concerts once the artists realize that
like, I mean, that's what
they can make a lot more money sitting home?
That's what I was like, you know, kind of tipping off there earlier, like, you know, but didn't kind of get too into it because I thought like, you know, that basically, you know, it's sort of a conversation that's been rolled around so much already, like, you know, artists going online. But, you know, if they just kind of, if an artist kind of just goes, oh, I'm just going to just hop online here and, you know, do a few random songs with my acoustic on, you know, Instagram Live or Facebook Live, they're not really going to get that much because it's kind of for, you know, they really need to pan out. Now with Dua Lipa, like, I mean, of course she already had a massive following, but you know, there was a lot of money still put into that because, you know, it was ticketed. Yes, it broke a record, but like there wasn't really much of a record to break anyway, like because of the fact that like, no one was really doing online. But I think it was something crazy, like the views that she had, which obviously would never pack out a venue, like 360 million views or something like that. But I must double check that. I don't know. That could be a little bit high, but
No,
but
but
like
it was big, and that's the point, is that she had a big
yeah. But like there was
presence.
a lot of production went into that. Like there was a huge amount of production. She had a production team. She had professional, you know, videographers. She collaborated with many other famous artists, such as Kylie Minogue was one of them, because I think that just stayed in my mind because I was kind of surprised that Kylie Minogue was kind of, I didn't know she was doing any sort of collaborations, or, I hadn't heard of it
Wow,
for so long.
Kylie Minogue. You think Dua Lipa's fans know who Kylie Minogue is?
Well, that's the thing. So that's why I was kind of surprised that Kylie Minogue had anything to do with it. Because I was like, different generation. Because like, if you Google Kylie now, Kylie Jenner comes up. Whether before, like, years ago, you Google Kylie, it was Kylie Minogue. But
Right.
but she had a huge production behind her, and she collaborated with like a lot of, there was, I don't know, roughly, I don't know, give or take, random guess, 6 well-known musicians that were collaborating with her on it as well. So it was kind of like something along the lines of Jules Holland. I don't know, you have like, that's a British music program, like, where he kind of goes around, there's different performers. It was obviously Dua Lipa was like the main person, but there's a lot of elements that like made it that big. Yeah. And I think that like, if any artist, even if they're kind of starting out, if they do it right, if they have the right promotion, the right things in place, have the right, like everything, promotion and production, that they, and then sell tickets online, that it could work well. But a lot of artists just want to work on the creative, and they don't want to have to be involved in the business, or they don't feel they have time, or they feel overwhelmed, stressed, or anxious with the whole thing. But Dua Lipa was very lucky to have had a whole team behind her to get that like properly off the ground, and did an amazing job with it. But I think that, I think that if they, not on platforms like Facebook, but like, I think it was, I don't know what the name, I think it was like something live, Get Live or something like that, getlive.com, something like that, was the platform that, or live stream that Dua Lipa used. And that obviously is a platform where, you can sell tickets and stuff through, and obviously they take a commission. So like, it's specific platforms tailored for live performances that musicians need to kind of educate themselves on, and then they need to educate themselves on PR, just like forever. I mean, so rather than kind of just doing the same thing, except for not like for physical performance, but for like an online performance. So they just like can
Right.
rinse and repeat.
So what do you think is the biggest mistake music artists, or people that are trying to make a living and sustain themselves doing their art? What do you think is the biggest mistake they make or what they fail to do or don't do at all, when trying to make an income and be a musician or an artist for a living? What's the one biggest mistake you would say,
It's
or
honestly like,
failure?
it sounds so simple, but it's so true. It's a lack of consistency, and of course that with the like the lack of, I suppose, like knowledge in like, how to work platforms to their advantage. But as I said earlier, it's like, if you put up a post and you're not getting enough, and then you don't do another one for a few weeks, and it's just, that will never ever ever work for you, no matter who you are. It's just it's this lack of consistency, perseverance,
Right, I agree completely, because if you're not putting your all into your business, if it's music business or any business, then how can you really succeed at it? So I completely agree.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, as you're saying, with people like dropping off, that's where then people get deterred, and then they just throw in the towel and they go get another job. But I mean, if they were to be big, they obviously probably are not the people for that, because like anyone that's big, and I mean, like Mariah Carey, I have like the big people, like I don't know, they all, like, as I said earlier, they fucking hustled. They didn't just, they weren't just stumbled across, they weren't just discovered, they didn't just like randomly get signed. They worked their way, knowing exactly what they were doing, and I think that if a musician wants that for themselves, that's what they'll do regardless. But if you're just kind of like, just looking to kind of build up something online and do it like completely, without kind of like the networking of, approaching certain industry people and hustling like a lot of the bigger people did back in the day, then it's about the numbers. Because if you're looking to get a record label attracted to you, then you have to be attractive to them. And the way to be attractive to them is not by talent, it's by numbers. It's like, how many people are following you, how many streams are you getting, how many views, how many this, how many that. because then it's easier for them because they don't have to put as much money or as much work behind you.
Mhm.
And like, I mean, whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, it's more down to business and numbers than talent across the board when it comes to musicians and the music business. Hence why what I'm trying to do is simplify it for musicians that, like, no matter how good or bad or indifferent they are, they can figure it out very simply by themselves and know what to do. But it's all down to their own accountability, like being accountable for that consistency and that perseverance as well. So yeah.
I'm curious. I have a kind of a geographical question.
Okay.
Would you say there's any advantage or disadvantage if you're a music artist coming out of Ireland? Is there anything that, like I said, is a disadvantage, advantage specifically to your country?
No, I'd say neither, or to be honest, really, I think it's the same in most countries. Well, at least in the English speaking countries that I'm aware of, it's pretty much the same. I mean, if things were normal, it's a lot easier to grow as a musician in Ireland, but it's also really easy to just get stuck and plateau very fast because there isn't a big enough industry here because it's a small country. I mean, the entire country has got a population less than 5 million. And there's only X amount of radio stations and X amount of blogs that are kind of, like there's probably even like one big blog in Ireland that if you get a mention on is great. But then what happens after that? It's like, okay, well, that's done now. What you do, you just kind of like maybe continue gigging or whatever, but you have to kind of keep yourself relevant. I mean, yeah, in the UK, it's a bigger country for sure. There is more to build up, but and it can be harder then in the UK to be discovered, same in or to build your audience or whatever, same in the US. And I mean, we're talking pre-COVID, like, I mean, when you could gig, same in the US, like, I mean, it's a huge country with a huge population, or even in Australia, it takes a lot longer to build up a name for yourself. Whereas if it's online, I think it kind of, people are more sort of on equal ground because everyone in the US, the UK, Australia, Ireland, they're all online. So, and online is global. So I think everyone's sort of in the same boat, as opposed to, giving it like against like your demographics or your population where you were kind of just seen and heard of and building a name by live gigs, you know?
I wonder if that's hurt, if you really really go deep. I wonder if the internet and social media and online has hurt the local musician because
Ah,
in order for audience to seek out music, they had to go to their local cafe or bar or club venue, and now they don't have to leave their house and they can listen to somebody in a different country and really get away from supporting any of their local musicians and artists.
mhm.
Do you feel like the internet is really great for a musician, or do you think it might have hurt them?
No, I think it's good for sure. I mean, otherwise, like, what was it like the back in the 90s where you're just like handing out flyers, putting up posters, and hoping for the best? I think that like if a musician is savvy enough and they want, it's the same as any industry. If you want to become a doctor, you have to put the work in. If you want to, have a company doing whatever, you have to put the work in. It's the same as a musician. You have to put the work in if you want to be, build yourself up. I mean, back in the day, you could put like maybe if you had a new business, you'd put like an ad in the paper. As a musician, would put up a flyer or a poster. But now it's just like, yeah, you just have to work harder at your visibility is all. And if you just put the time and effort in, I mean, you can just do it like as simply as 1 hour a day, just like doing your social media, and that's consistent. And it's sticking to a very realistic schedule, and it's working in your favor. You don't have to be on all the time, every 2 minutes posting this, that, the other, blah 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 blah. 1 hour a day would do, like, to do cross platforms, like on like Facebook, putting up a post on Facebook, putting up a tweet, putting a thing up on Instagram, doing a story on Instagram, doing a reel, or even like doing a YouTube video. I mean, it doesn't have to be polished to perfection and all of these sort of graphics and special effects and all that stuff. No, as long as the what you're giving is valuable, interesting, or entertaining, then you will slowly build up an audience regardless. So I think it's a good thing, the internet, like, for sure. And yeah, it has hurt local musicians and audience members alike. But what I was going to say earlier, actually, and I forgot, is VR. when we were talking about like Dua Lipa and her gigs and concerts, rather than musicians going online to things like, you know, doing lives on Instagram or doing lives on Facebook, that like they would do lives on these particular, you know, intentionally built platforms for live gigs, and then the audience member, they would watch it via VR. So it's kind of like, you know, being there as well, which is kind of scary because, you know, it's like that could be too easily a done thing, you know. Yes, you want to have the option of live too, but I think it's a really good way to, you know, that I think it will be a good way in the future for artists to build their profile online, because right now you're just looking at a one-dimensional screen where you're just, you know, you can see them like in front of you and that's it. Whereas if you're going to be looking at an online concert or just, you know, an artist even starting out doing a live, then you're going to be able to, they'll, you know, hopefully get more into the gig and you're going to be more involved as well and more engaged. And so therefore you'll build up an audience a little bit better, because you'll be able to be more immersed. But and then hopefully that will lead up to, once you build up a certain amount of a following, then you could do a live gig and then you're guaranteed to have the people come to your gig rather than playing to an empty room like so many people do at the start. You'll actually have like, you know, a following pre-made and ready to go. So
Mm.
I think that could
So
be.
don't you think it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because the internet gives an artist potential to reach out to billions of people, but it also makes it harder for them to be seen in such a huge space. Don't you think it can actually hurt an artist being, you know, it's just so competitive and everyone's
No,
putting
I
their stuff
don't.
out?
Well, I mean,
No.
like, yeah, I know what you're saying, and I mean, I think that a lot of people do think like that, and but I mean, it's like it's not rocket science. It's like you just get a, you know, a basic grasp on a few like tools online, and you're away you go. Get a grasp on a few
Hmm.
basic tools. You know, 1 hour a day, boom, like, you know, you can, you know, that's you online. I mean, it will take a while to build up, and of course, if you put more time into it, it will help you grow faster. But at least that. But I don't think so, because I think that it kind of really filters through people as well. I think that it kind of shows people their determination, their perseverance, their again consistency. But I think it also kind of shows people, like say potential fans, it shows like who they really are, what they're really about, and it kind of gives more of a sort of a scope and an insight to them, as opposed to them just being like a complete mystery, and only seeing them like, you know, on VH1 or MTV or something, like, you know, 20 years, well, maybe 5 years later, like once they're actually famous. But I mean, it gives, yeah, look, it is a little bit harder to kind of like stand out, but you know, such is life. I don't know.
Yes.
I think it's a good thing, because like it just shows people, it's more transparent. It kind of gives the potential fans a real look into, ooh, do I like this person actually? Am I, you know, what are their ethics, their morals? You know, do I resonate with their branding? Is their music speaking to me? Do I like what they're saying? Do I think their social media is cool? So it just kind of gives it more depth and gives it more elements to for fans to be drawn to, I think.
Hmm.
Do
Very
you agree
interesting.
or kind of disagree?
I do. I do agree. I mean, I think it's a challenge no matter what.
It
And
is.
if you're, like you said, you're consistent and you have something that you're saying something or you're playing something that people want to hear, then you have it. Everyone has a chance. Everyone has a chance.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's it, you know, because I mean, back in the day, just to say again, like when things were like pre-internet days, when musicians just literally told all their friends and their friends of friends and everything about their gig and just handed out flyers and put up posters. Um, you know, that was great because there was less people, you know, that were doing music, because it was more like you had to get a job for security, you had to provide, you had to, you know, a lot less than it is now. And people just didn't know any better. It was like, you know, you have to go to school, you have to go to college. And so there was less musicians around that actually, like, you know, would just, you know, kind of, I suppose, rebel against, like, you know, the status quo of society and just be kind of like, no, we're going to, like, you know, we're going to gig and we're going to like have a band and it's going to be cool and we're going to do this and that and tour, living the dream kind of thing. But like, if you had that now, that would be way harder to try and stand out, like, because the place would be littered with posters and flyers, like, it's like everybody is just trying to, like, be seen, and it's just, if you only have like very few avenues to promote yourself, then it's harder to get seen through that one avenue, whether if you've multiple. And it's all about like really targeting who your audience are as well. So whatever kind of music you do, whatever genre it is, you really have to be specific, because if you're a musician who's targeting the world, you're not going to have anybody hear you. But if you're a musician who has a certain genre and who really targets, and this is what I kind of talk about as well, like, through a music business program, it's like finding like your ideal audience. So it's like, you just talk to one person, then you're talking to many, and that's how you can grow your audience and your fan base. So if you just even like, as a musician, you think about like, who do you want to reach? Who do you want to talk to? Who do you want, to resonate with your music and who you are as a person? Like, what beliefs do they have? How old are they? What sex are they? Like, where do they go to college? How much money do they have? Do they have a job? Do they have a dog? Whatever, getting really specific to that particular person. Give it a name, Frank. And, if you're talking to Frank, then you're talking to more people, because you're honing in on a very specific person, and that's that person you will be talking to. And if you're talking to that person, they will feel like, whoa, this person is actually really connecting with me and they're talking to me. And then you're going to be branching out and talking to many people like that. And that's kind of how you build like your subgenre. And like, it's not just, you have like, you see your micro genre, your subgenre, and then your main genre. And like, that's how you sort of build your audience, and that's how you grow and develop as a musician. And that's
Right.
then you find out what platform. Depending on their demographic, etc., and who they are, they could either be on Facebook, or they could be on Instagram, or they could be on Snapchat, or they could be on TikTok, or they could be on YouTube. Whatever, you need to kind of find out exactly who they are and find out where they hang out, and that's where you hang out. Then you don't have to kind of be all over all these platforms all the time. You can just pick out one platform, focus on your exact type of person that you want to attract, and that's how you kind of really do it. Like, because if you're just going to be talking to every single person on every single platform, then you're not really resonating with anybody, because you're just too broad. It's too general, So I think like,
So I'm curious, how do you feel about the future of music and actually being able to make money from music? Do you feel it's going to be harder, easier? Because I'm seeing music just free everywhere. It's, even new artists, they're just putting it on their Instagrams, their TikToks, I can go and find any music I want, anywhere I want, any point in time.
yeah,
And people are just giving it away. They're not selling it. They're just giving it away. So
that's okay. So there's two things, right? One, just because you lose one area of income, i.e. Venues, does not mean, that's your entire income stream cost. There's plenty of others, which I'll go into now in a sec. But two, this is a problem with musicians, right? As well. Sorry now if you are a musician, you're taking offense to this. But like, for example, Spotify. If you fucking boycott Spotify, they'll stop doing it. Musicians are allowing it to happen. If musicians get together and go, right, we are not putting out any free music. We are not putting any music up on Spotify anymore until they agree to pay us X. We are not going to be, putting our music up on YouTube, whatever. They have to make a stop to it, because like there's like stupid things like pay to play. So if you want to be on a blog, you've got to pay the blog to promote your music and whatever. That's ridiculous. If you do that and you pay them, you're encouraging and enabling that as a system to be in use, and to like, do the exact same thing to your other contemporaries and your other peers and everything else. So it's the musician's fault. They have, and it's only people like, maybe that possibly yourself being an entrepreneur and an educator with a podcast, and myself as well, that have to just drill it into musicians going, stop putting your music up for free. How the hell are you going to actually ever expect it to change and get paid for it if you're just giving it away? It's their own fault.
So you think platforms like Spotify are really hurting the income of, or potential income of any artist?
Yes, it's the platforms are fucking it up, like, because Spotify, and I mean as well, like Daniel Elk, the founder of Spotify, you know, made an announcement there a few months ago that he was going putting all his billions into tech companies as opposed to putting it into the music industry. I mean, that is adding injury to insult. And if I was a musician, you know, I would just go, boom, I am not putting my music on that platform anymore. You know, I don't really listen to.
What are some other platforms that are taking
Well, other
advantage of
platforms aren't
musicians?
being as insulting as David Elk by like not like by literally not paying musicians a cent, barely a cent. I think it's like 31 cents, not even that. And then saying, "Oh well, now thank you all to all the musicians around the world. I have made billions off you, but I'm going to put my money elsewhere. Thank you, bye bye, good night." You know, I mean, it's particularly Spotify that's done that. YouTube hasn't necessarily done that. Many musicians are making money off of YouTube successfully, you know, because they're actually, you know, they're putting up like quality content, not just music videos, not just like them like singing. They're putting up other stuff as well. They're talking about their work. They're talking about like things like writer's block. They're talking about maybe things like, you know, pre-stage fright. They're talking about things like, oh, you know, what's it like, you know, to kind of like, you know, pivot like, you know, from live to going online. They're talking, you know, about, you know, why they got started in music or how they're feeling about it now or whatever they're doing. You know, and then other musicians are checking that out, or they might be talking about their successes, like, you know, say they got X amount of streams on Spotify. This is how I got like this many streams in Spotify, or this is how I made this much money. This is how I got a sponsorship. But I mean, just the way record labels used to be back in the day when everyone was like, oh, I want to get a record deal. I want to get a record deal. That's going to make me a millionaire. People should be looking like synchronization agencies now like that, because that's where like, you know, the bigger money is going to be. It's going to be in synchronization and publishing. So if they can kind of like start to look into that a little bit more, that's probably wise. And yeah, I think record companies are going to be kind of making, for want of a better term, a comeback, in the sense that people are going to be more interested in them now because they're, you know, because that's a way of making, or of getting money. It's a way of making, you know, getting an advance, going to recording studio and getting promoted, you know. But I mean, that's not a guarantee either, of course, because like record labels, they do end up, they sign like a ton of people, and it's like, you know, whatever, when like it's like the spaghetti situation, sticks, whatever sticks they go with, you know. So I was kind of educating musicians as well on you know, if that is sort of what your goal is, let's say, you know, trying to get attention of a record label, when you get signed, that's when your work begins, as in like they will drop you like fucking hotcakes if you are not building your following and you're not on social media. So when you get signed to a label, you need to really push your social, because if they see that you're progressing and that you are continuing to build your fan base and followers and stuff like that, then they are more confident that when you do release a song through them, that you're going to get more traction. Therefore, it's going to end up being more money in their pocket. So that's, at the end of the day, if as a musician, I suppose one thing to say, make sure if you want to earn money yourself as a musician, you make sure that, like, you know, your whatever avenue or way you're going to, like, that you're making money all around. You just, you know, because that's kind of like the bottom line, really. And this is all about the numbers. And if you're a musician and you're giving your music away for free, then that is stupidity.
That's good advice. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting topic, you know, music, how it's changed.
If you're a musician, please, I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm just kind of,
no, this is good, real advice. And people have to wake up, and they can't just conform to what's out there. They have to really be mindful of all the platforms and how they're utilizing them.
100%. It's just education, like educating yourself, just to, you know, I mean, it's all about, it's so like, okay, just to kind of like recap there very briefly, it's just about finding your ideal fan, talking to them, singing to them, you know, appealing to them, and then being consistent and persevering, you know, and then being clever as well when it comes to money, because as I said, don't give your music away for free, and then people will stop expecting, you know, you to pay for your music to be played anywhere else. But, you know, things like looking, I mean, there's so many different ways. I mean, you can put your music on, I know at the beginning I said I wasn't going to go, you know, mention it, but like I will. It's like you know, you can get like sponsorship deals, you can look at synchronization, you can look at publishing, you can even like, you know, put your music up on royalty free programs where that, you know, people will you know, buy your song for like $5 or €5 to be able to put on their, I don't know, whatever they want to do with it. You know, so there's like ghost production as well, or there's even just producing. If you're, you know, producing music, writing music, you can sell that as well on plenty of sites, even Fiverr. You can put your music there to produce. You can write, you know, custom music. You can write custom lyrics for people. There's, you know, you can sell, you know, notation papers. There's it depends like what kind of genre, but I mean there's so many different ways of making money online with your music. It doesn't have to be just by playing your music and to a live audience. It can be, you know, selling your music, you know, it can be, you know, yeah, it's selling your music actually, I suppose, really is what all of those things are. Do
Mhm.
you know?
That's great
So
advice.
yeah,
So I hope some musicians or potential musicians and artists out there can really understand that
I hope
and
so.
try to look at, music is a business. It can be fun and it's creative, but you have to be smart about your business.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it can be very lucrative if you do your music business the right way, right?
Actually, one thing as well, like for any musicians that are listening, is that like just looking to Chance the Rapper, he does not make music from any live gigs. He has multiple streams of income from his music, and none of them are live gigs. So check out like maybe his streams of income as well.
Interesting, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's way different than yesteryear when you really had to gig out to make your money. Now
It is.
there's so many different ways to make your money in music. You just got to be resourceful and you got to get educated.
Yeah, it's just keeping up with the times, knowing what worked before is just not working now, and just you know, adapting to that and adopting it and
Mhm.
pivoting towards it. I think that some musicians are just kind of really, you know, romanticizing and stuck in that sort of like, you know, romantic past of, you know, playing music and, you know, appealing to people in the audience and things like that, whether they are looking for them to look up to them or they're looking for them to think that, you know, they're cool or to be moody or to be looked at as talented or to be looked at, you know, because they want attention. You know, each musician, you know, performs live because they're looking for a particular emotion, or they're looking for
Mhm.
some sort of feeling. And obviously not going to get that, but that's sort of the romantic aspect of music. Whereas the cold
Right.
hard truth is that it's a business.
Wow, we forgot about that part of music, the romantic, the passion,
Mhm.
the love of it. But the truth is, if you want to make money from it, you have to treat it like a business,
Mhm.
and you have to um, you know uh, you have to educate yourself. You have to seek out places where you can sell your music or be a part of a bigger movement and attach yourself to more get yourself more ears and eyes on you.
Yeah.
And I think musicians and artists, if like I said, if you want to make a living doing it, you have to take it more seriously. You have to treat it like a business. And if you don't know how to do it and you can't figure out how to conduct good business in your music endeavors, then you need to find someone to help you,
Hmm.
um, and and help you prosper from it, and just figure out how to make revenue from it. So to all the music artists and all artists of any kind of creative endeavor, they need to, if they want to make money from it and take it beyond the hobby and the love of it, they have to treat it like a business.
Hmm.
And as ugly as that sounds, um, that's the only way to truly, make a living doing anything. No matter how much you love it, you have to treat it like a business.
I would love to see musicians come together and just make a stance and just say no to just certain things like, you know, the pay to play, or even like, you know, free playing free gigs, or even like Spotify. Just like if every musician were to just come together and go, right now, we are going to fucking boycott Spotify until they give us more money, you know, but, you know, they don't. And I would love to see that. That would be huge. Like that would really kind of make, I think,
I
a
I
clear
think I
industry.
think I have a solution for that. So it's hard to tell people don't go somewhere, right? You have to tell people where they can go
True.
to be appreciated more, or to be a place where it's more lucrative. So
Mhm.
that's when I give people business advice, it's not so much telling people no or don't,
Mhm.
it's giving them a real solution.
That's
And I
good.
don't know if there's a real solution, a competitor out there that is
Mm.
as known and marketed as well as Spotify. So I don't know, where can we send
The
these
thing about it is,
musicians? Where can we?
Spotify for so long, it's only the past like few years it's really come up. I mean, that company's been going for a long time before it's actually hit as big as where it is. But yeah, I to be quite honest, that is the question. That's the problem. And you're so right what you said as well. Like that's wise, solid business advice. Is like, rather than like, trying to say don't do this and don't do that, find the actual solution. But unfortunately, I think that at the moment there isn't any sort of alternative solution, like, to somewhere where an artist can actually put their music and get paid. Not that I'm aware of outside of things like, publishing and synchronization, but that would be selling an individual track. You do get like, a lot of money for that, which is great, but that is a lot of work, to get to that stage of actually selling your track to, publishing or synchronization agent. Sponsorship as well is another one. But yeah, I might actually kind of start looking into that. But I mean, I'm sure I would have heard of any. I mean, what other ones are out there? There's like, Tidal, Spotify. There's a few other ones, and I don't think that any of them really do give a fair share. I think Spotify is the biggest, and I think artists kind of feel that like they need to get the listens, like, the views or whatever on Spotify, or the plays, to, compete with everybody else, because it's like it's the biggest, so it's probably where everyone is at, so therefore they might get more listens on Spotify, if they're there. But I think if they just kind of were to, again, just sort of hone down on what platform really suits them better, maybe they would just kind of grow more of, an indie audience, as opposed to just like broadcasting it out there to the world, where you're not really sort of targeting anybody. But yeah, I mean, that's something that I has crossed my mind that I'd love to do, is to kind of create a platform where, musicians do get a lot more money. Unfortunately, I don't have the capital to do that right now. If you know any investors or anybody listening that wants to invest, do hit me up. AntoniaKmore.com, info@AntoniaKmore.com. But there is something that I'm doing at the moment that I have actually in the pipeline for quite a while, that I nearly forgot about. But I need a little bit of investment in that to kind of get it across the line, and then it will be done. I just don't have the money right now to finish it. And it's called Tip Jar Music. So it's literally it's an app for, tipping musicians. And the idea is it's kind of like similar to PayPal or Stripe, where you can send money, but their commission or fees is like, 2.9% plus. Whereas I would kind of, obviously give the majority to the musicians, but obviously just kind of keep enough myself to be able to keep and sustain the platform and keep it going.
Wait a second, Antonia, you created an app?
Yeah, like this has kind of been in the pipeline now since 2016, and I kind of got it like I got it
Wow.
like halfway, but then, I had to change developers, like, because there was issues with the app, and they had taken on bigger projects, and they were kind of doing it like on as mates rates, they were kind of doing it for a cheaper price. So because then they were getting bigger projects, they were kind of like, putting it to the side and sort of like weren't really working on it. So then I was looking for another developer, and then I found another developer, but the developers I found were like, we'd have to start this from scratch because we don't use that particular software and blah, 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 blah. So I just need 10 grand to get it across the line and completely finished and out to the public. So it remains to be seen.
Well,
Whereas
guess what? We
have an app as well.
we actually welcome entrepreneurs like you to our show to try to get the word out, so we can get investors together, or like-minded individuals that want to partner with other entrepreneurs. So this might be one of those endeavors that we can put out there and see if we can get some people together, and or investors to help you with your platform. And I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think it's great that you want to get musicians and artists more money into their pocket. And I think it's clever, and I think it's needed. And I really hope it happens,
That would be
whether
great.
it's your app or, yeah, I mean,
Amazing.
so this is, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm really
I
glad you mentioned
know,
that
and it's
because,
like we've been talking now for an hour and a half, and I'm like, we both have to go. I'm pretty
oh
sure, and it's
Lord,
like the 11th hour. Kind of makes
yeah,
you're like, hang on, I can look
sometimes
at
it
this.
takes that. So I'm glad we got to that.
Yes,
I'm really, so,
me
so
too.
you heard it, people. Tip Jar Music.
Yeah.
Antonia has a great solution to really help out the artist, and she's not being a pig, obviously. She, apps like this, they, you do need to pull money from it to keep it going.
Yeah.
So, but she's not taking 99.9% like most other
Yeah.
apps and
Yeah, I'm not a
platforms,
pig when
right?
it comes to money, but I wouldn't say the same about food. Bit of a glutton, but like no.
Yeah,
Um,
that's all she needs. Just give her food and she'll work
Give
for
me
food.
pizza. I'm happy. Yeah, great. Pizza and a bottle of red. Excellent. Pizza and
That's
no.
it. Just send her pizza and wine. She's good.
So true. Actually, you probably could live in pizza and wine. So yeah, that's completely. As long as I can,
That's
live,
it.
I'm good.
That's all
Um,
you need.
that's all I need. Yeah. So that sounds really interesting. I'd love to kind of know more about that. Like, so I suppose like I'll send you maybe my email or something like that or whatever after this, and we can converse there. I could tell you more about it. I had a website for it,
Mm,
Tipjar-Music. It was
mhm.
a hosted website that was hosted free for a year. And it was just up there a couple of months ago. And so I meant to create another website myself on, on WordPress or Wix, but I hadn't got around to doing that yet. So I hope it's still there, and I'll just double check. And if it is, I'll send you the link. But that will be the domain for it anyway. I'll just have to probably put another website together because it was another. It was sort of an offer. It was basically an offer from a bank. If you sign up, like, with your business account, like we'll give you like a website free for a year and da 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 da. So I was like, sure. And so I don't know if it's still live or not. I'll actually just have a look there now and see. But if it is, I'll send you the link straight away. And if not, I'll have to recreate the website and just use the domain. So, sure. Dash.
No, but that's good to know. And if we get any listeners or audience that's interested in being a part of that new platform and new movement to really get artists more money for their creative works. I mean, I think it's a very positive business and it's needed.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, yeah, I mean, like there obviously are other platforms like as I mentioned already, I was gonna say YouTube, Stripe, and PayPal. But I mean, they're not like sort of like music specific. And I mean, there's a lot of different sort of ideas I have for the app. Initially, of course, everybody that has an idea suddenly has like 20 ideas on top of that idea. But obviously,
Sure.
reel it back and just have it like basic. But I mean, the idea would be to sort of like, yeah, create it as a basic tipping app initially, specify
Yeah.
specifically for musicians. And then, kind of have like sort of a community of fans and musicians where, there's like in-app, messaging and things like that. And the initial idea was for live venues, where that if you're in a city, say for example, you can just go on the app and it will show you geographically what music is happening where. But then obviously it's kind of changing that like a little bit to kind of just have it, just like where musicians can put up their profile and fans can follow them, and I suppose have like messaging and stuff like that between fans.
Yes.
And stuff as well. But yeah, like there's lots of sort of ideas with it, and there was way more
Sure.
obviously, but like, I mean, I was going to gamify it and, have all this kind of stuff, but I'm just like, nope, just keep it simple. To be, starting off will just be tipping, and then maybe eventually just do the, messaging, and that's it. Just to kind of build
No,
like,
I think it's a great idea. It's completely needed. And I actually met with a developer several years ago where we were going to put together something competitive to Spotify. So for the same exact reason, to get the artists more money, to get more artist integration with each other.
mhm.
But the reason why we really didn't go forward and finish it was because, quite honestly, it cost a ton of money, not only to develop it properly with all the proper, all the features,
Yeah,
but you need a ton of money to advertise it. Because even if you have the best app in the world, if you don't have
get it out
a
there.
very large budget to advertise it, no one's going to know that it exists. So
Yeah,
um,
while I'll never discourage anyone to start a new platform or app. You just have to be mindful that, you know, the hard work is obviously putting your idea and getting it, you know, functional in an app, but a tremendous challenge is getting the budget to advertise it. So let's not, you know, hoodwink people. We really need people to know that
Yeah.
there's a lot of work, a lot of work. Once your app is completed, a
Hmm.
lot of work, a lot of money to now serve it up and get people to find you. It's a very challenging,
It is,
you
yeah,
know,
for sure, 100%. I mean, that's the thing, you do need a lot, like, to market it as well. I mean, I have been sort of putting it out there over the past couple of years, few years. And so I've been collecting email addresses and stuff. So people are sort of, I just have to kind of like email them as soon as it's there, and I'd have maybe probably to start with maybe at least 20 to 50 potential customers, which is great for beta
yeah,
testing.
you got to start somewhere. I think
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah. But then to kind of get it out and grow. But I mean, these things take time. It's the same thing, like, you know, as
They
I said
do.
earlier on, it's just across the board, everything takes perseverance and consistency. So, I mean, like, there's so many apps that took a long time to kind of become the big apps, you know?
Oh
So,
yeah, a lot of
here.
millions in the red, a lot of money before they even uh, fail. So, and
Yeah.
most of them do fail. They just pour so much money into it, and they really didn't put a lot of, you know, a lot of thought into the actual app. They just threw a lot of money at it, and it's not all about money. Yeah, actually have to have a great idea and a great a functional app, and then
Sure.
obviously a lot of money to put
It's
behind it. You
funny.
know.
Yeah, sometimes people have, like, you know, loads of money and like a really shitty app and they try and push it out, or a really shitty idea. And then people that have like a really good idea but no budget. Like, it's always the way, really, isn't it? It's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah, and we're humans, so we all kind of think alike generally. It's just that who's able to really put in the work, put in the money and the thought to really get something out there, and that's the hard part, right?
It is, it is, it is. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah,
Because
it's
we all know that's needed. We all know that that app is needed. We need an alternative
yeah.
to you know, to Spotify. Obviously, there is a purpose for Spotify, and I'm not saying to avoid it, or I'm just saying that there needs to be alternatives so people have choices, right?
100%. That's it. Like, it's just about, you know, choosing and making that right choice. I mean, Spotify, I mean, like, it's just, I just have a bit of a chip on my shoulder about it, because I mean, if the founder, I mean, it's been for years that, like, okay, artists not getting paid from it. But then, like, as I said, it added insult to injury that the founder then turned around and said, oh, I'm going to put my billions into tech. I think that's the way of the future,
Eesh,
rather
that
than like
hurts a
just
little
kind
bit.
of saying, like, I'm going to put this back into the music industry. I mean, then people would love him and he would get more people on his platform. You get more musicians signing up, you get more fans,
Mm.
streaming. So it's just like he just kind of shot himself in the foot. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's got billions, like, so it doesn't really matter. He can do whatever
Mm.
he wants. It's not really going to affect him.
So maybe I have to reach out to David Elk and really have a conversation with him and make sure that he gives back to the musician. So maybe we need to reach out to
Dude.
him.
Yes, actually, do you know what? There's a current podcast with them on Tim Ferriss. I was
Mm,
listening to it in the car. I only managed to listen to the first like 15 minutes, and I have to go back to it. But yeah,
okay,
I've never seen really much sort of media on him. But there is with
right,
Tim Ferriss, like a relatively recent, it's like only about a month old or something, interview with him. So I'm
mm,
really intrigued to hear what he's going to say in that interview, actually, and maybe even to see
right.
if, like, Tim Ferriss like kind of penetrates any sort of, like, elephants in the room. But
That's great. No, but it's good to hear that you care about the musicians and the artists out there because it seems not too many people do anymore. They just take them for granted. So I'm happy to hear that you're really a proponent and you're really trying to help the artists with your own marketing and education programs and your podcast. And I really appreciate someone like yourself that you know that cares and it's not all about the money. Clearly you're doing a lot of things to help and you're doing it you know for the for care of the artist and of course pizza and wine.
Yeah.
So don't forget to
Absolutely.
send her pizza and wine.
That's, I was actually just thinking that, like, when you were saying that, because I was like, yeah, nearly pizza and wine would do me. Yeah, I know. Well, of course, like, you know, and a roof over my head, of course, as well, like, would obviously be part of it. But yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, it's just kind of trying to, like, you know, give back, or not even give back, like, but just to kind of like try and help them out, like, and just kind of change. Because I mean, I've been so passionate about music my whole life, and I never got into music myself just because I was like too shy to sort of sing, and I didn't learn an instrument. So, you know, but I've also, business has always been sort of some things. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial environment. So business has always kind of been something that I was going to do inevitably, but wasn't too sure what shape or form I was going to take. So I kind of just put like sort of my skills and my passion together really to try and yeah, get it out there. And just because, you know, yeah, I just, you know, it's a great industry. There's so much amazing talent out there. There's so, I mean, songs are so powerful. Music is like magic. You know, you really have to kind of hone and nurture this thing we have. And if musicians are kind of like getting deterred because they're not like getting any traction or they're not seeing any results, they just need help. And it's just because like it's like an amalgamation of like the left brain, the right brain. Like your right brain is actually the creative side and your left brain actually is the logical side. Most people think it's the other way around, but if you can just kind of and your brain, you know, I mean, with, you know, is it's the neuroplasticity and the connection of the synapses in your brain. You know, it's very easy to reprogram your mind. It's very, because I've done like NLP and I've done hypnosis and all that kind of stuff, with the aim to actually use that, you know, with the musicians to kind of try and get them into the right mindset. It's about having a growth and a success mindset. And it's about just reprogram your mind, which is very easily done by listening to hypnosis recordings on a nightly basis, like, you know, for maybe 30 nights or whatever. And, you know, all these different like tools and techniques that actually work. People might think that, oh, that sounds too simple, but it actually works. And that's, you know, it's usually the simplest things that actually are the most effective. But it's, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's just kind of like, yes, you've got the creative brain, but also just kind of knowing a little bit about like what you need to do to kind of get yourself out there as a musician, and taking the business aspect of it as well and applying that like to your own career. And it can easily be done because, you know, the brain is an amazing computer. It's an amazing machine. And if you can just use it to its potential to, you know, put the potential into your own career, then you're going to be on a winner. So yeah, just kind of want to, I don't know, just mention that. But yeah, so a lot of musicians, the point is that like they're just too afraid of the business side of things, but don't be, because it just takes practice, you know. And you know what, actually, which I read recently, thought that was quite interesting, and it makes perfect sense. Confusion. If somebody's confused about things, it's just the brain trying to rewire itself to figure out what that thing is. Because if you're confused about something initially and you figure it out, then obviously there's, you know, there's no confusion anymore. It's the same thing with learning, you know. It's just, everything is just about like learning, really applying yourself.
Right.
But anyway, yeah,
agree.
okay, I'm going on a bit and ranting.
Well, Antonia, it's really been a pleasure to talk to you, and your insight on music. It's really been great. And I'm looking forward to hear your progress in the future.
Yeah, listen, Evan, thank you so much as well. I mean, it's nearly been like bloody 2 hours. It's like an hour and 3/4 that we've but it's been, I think it's been a surprising pleasure as well, like in the sense, like I didn't think I was kind of going to go into too much with the music industry, but we kind of went there. And you know,
yeah, we went there because I have a love for that industry as well, and I've been in it and I'm still in it, so I gravitate to that.
Amazing. Well, I really appreciate your time, because like it's been quite a time. And yeah, listen, thank you so much as well, like for the chat and hearing me out, and all of this all the time.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right, and I wish you luck. I wish you health, and hopefully we'll speak soon.
Absolutely, 100%. Fingers crossed. And what I'll do is I'll send you my email as well. So if you want to maybe send me any information regarding, you know, putting the app out there for potential investors, whatever, that'd be great. Be fantastic.
Absolutely.
And if I'm in New York, I'm going to hook you up as well, like, or hook up with you at some point, like, you know, try and like meet up, because like I don't really know anybody in New York, but I do know people all over the world, and I really get there at some point in the near future, and really go and check out some jazz music in, you know, Greenwich Village or wherever. That'd be awesome.
Give us a shout. Yeah. We actually have one of your own out here, a great artist from Ireland that
Oh,
She's we're working with. Her name is Jenny B. So
okay.
maybe when you come out here, we'll all get together.
Absolutely. Sounds amazing. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, Evan,
All
thank
right.
you so much. Have a great rest of your week, and
You
hopefully we'll chat
too.
again soon. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Take care.